All right, welcome everyone to this meeting of SABR's East Coast Cooperative, a group of 7 chapters in Eastern Canada and the United States who are working together to bring you more great presentations. I am Bruce McClure, the chapter chair of the Clyde Sukeforth chapter in Maine and New Hampshire. And tonight we have another great speaker for you. I can't wait. But before we begin, let's go to Joanne Hulbert, who's going to start us off with a poem. Joanne, how you doing?
Good.
Go get 'em.
This is to honor your guest tonight. This is for John Racanelli. So hang in there. All right. Now, I will confess, this is not a poem, but I'm going to make it poetic and make it sound like a poem just to get underneath the limits here. Anyway, okay. Monument may be raised in Chicago. American League gives up the plan of erecting it in Washington. Chicago, February 15, 1925. The proposal of the American League to erect a $100,000 monument to baseball has not been dropped. President Ban Johnson said tonight, adding that it would be erected in Chicago or New York instead of Washington. The American League Club owners at their meeting in St. Louis last week withdrew their offer to Congress to erect the monument in East Potomac Park, Washington, D.C., because of opposition when the subject was up for debate. President Johnson had planned to have the names of the most valuable players in the American League selected annually and inscribed on the monument. Chicago has an ideal setting for a monument on the lakefront, on which is built the municipal stadium, as the league will celebrate its 25th anniversary next year. It has been suggested that an effort he made to have the club owners build it here and dedicate it as a part of the celebration. Chicago is the birthplace of the league. So, Mr. Racanelli, did they build that monument? Is it out there on the lakefront anywhere that you know of? Did it never happen?
Never happened.
What a shame.
Ooh.
Do you know anything about the background on this? The background on the story about it not being built?
I've read about it. I don't really know off the top of my head, though.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
It really is. It's a tragedy in the making. So, but I just thought it was rather interesting, you being interested in monuments, and perhaps you might have known some little serendipitous story about what happened to it, or if it landed in Lake Michigan in a heap.
All right, let's get on with our feature presentation, because let me tell you, I have been waiting for this for weeks. This is special. SABR members comprise, I'm so excited, I can't even get through my introduction tonight. SABR members comprise a special breed of individuals drawn to out-of-the-way places to spy an old ballpark, visit a historic marker, or pay their respects at the grave of a late ball player. Until now, there had not been a comprehensive checklist or map to document the staggering array of baseball-related sites located across North America. The Baseball Landmarks Committee endeavors to fill this need with the SABR Baseball Map. John Racanelli is a Chicago lawyer with an insatiable interest in baseball-related litigation. When not rooting for his beloved Cubs, or working, he is probably reading a baseball book or blog, planning his next baseball trip, enjoying downtime with his wife and family. He is probably the world's foremost photographer of triple peanuts found at ball games, and likes to think he has one of the most complete collection of vintage handheld electronic baseball games known to man. John is the membership director for the Emil Roth Chicago chapter and founded and co-chaired the SABR Landmarks Research Committee, a regular contributor to the SABR Baseball Cards Research Committee blog. His series of articles, Death and Taxes and Baseball Card Litigation, won a 2023 McFarland SABR Baseball Research Award. John delivered the keynote address at the dedication ceremony of a historic marker placed in honor of Lewis Robert Hack Wilson in Elwood City, Pennsylvania on August 25th, 2023. And oh man, he is here tonight to discuss the Landmarks Committee with us. John Racanelli, how you doing? Welcome.
Doing good, Bruce. Thank you so much. It's nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I am always the most passionate to talk about baseball landmarks. And if you've heard this story before, bear with me. But if you haven't heard it, this is kind of how this all came together. I have been planning baseball trips with my family since the last year of Yankee Stadium. And when I saw Yankee Stadium was being torn down, I wanted to go out there and see it. I'm by no means a Yankees fan, but wanted to enjoy the history of it. Saw that the Mets were in town while we were there. We did that, and I'm like, well, we might as well do the Phillies while we're in the area too. So with that started yearly baseball trips. And each of these baseball trips, whether it's been major leagues, minor leagues, independent leagues, college wood bat, we're looking for baseball anywhere we could find it. Started incorporating different places to see along the way. Murals, statues, museums, historic markers, whatever we could find kind of along the way, a diversion, a way to break up the trip and so forth. But in 2016, our trip took us down to Birmingham, Atlanta, Chattanooga. And when we were in Birmingham, we saw a game at Regents Field where the Birmingham Barons play the AA team for the Chicago White Sox. And I have a picture of one of my kids outside the ballpark after the game. And way off in the background, you could see kind of this blurry part of a Willie Mays statue that was there. I had no idea it was there. Totally missed it. Never went and saw it. As we were walking from the parking lot to the ballpark, we passed by the Negro Southern League Museum that's right outside down the third base line. Had no idea it was there, had not left ourselves any time to go in and visit. So when I returned from that trip, I kind of made it a little bit of a mission to try and document, put into a spreadsheet as many of these places, not only the ballparks themselves, but anything around the ballpark that was of baseball interest and so forth. And this kind of eventually culminated in starting the Landmarks Committee. And with a army of volunteers, some of which I see on the call right now, we took my original list and increased it twofold. And we are now over 2,400 sites on the baseball map. And then subsequently, I was contacted by Dr. Fred Worth, who has an unbelievable spreadsheet of graves. I see Dan's on the call. He's written an article about Fred. Fred is amazing because I think all but 2 or 3 of the 10,000 graves he has on his website, or on his spreadsheet, he has visited personally, taken down the GPS coordinates personally, and so forth. So that's part of the presentation too. We'll go over the graves map. It's pretty extensive, but all of this led to now we've got all of this information. How is the best way to let people use it? And hopefully, if you've used the graves map, you want to just show your hand. If you've used the baseball map, show your hand. Hopefully, most of the people on the call here have known about it, maybe have used it. But if you haven't, I'm hoping that we can show some people some pretty cool stuff. So as far as the way that I'm just going to try and share here. As far as the Landmarks Committee is concerned, and I'm sorry when I put joint chapter meeting, I didn't realize it was the East Coast Collective when I first started, but as far as the map is concerned, that's kind of the main part of our committee mission. But really what we're trying to do is just compile a database and this map of baseball related sites, things that people want to see when they're traveling. And this is not just for SABR members. If you have friends that are interested in baseball travel, please let them know about the baseball map. They can use it, and there's no login or anything. You just go on Google. If you just put in SABR Baseball Map, You should find it pretty quickly. If you want to look at the Graves map, SABR Baseball Graves map, pretty straightforward. But what we're trying to do is just encourage SABR members to
Right.
visit each of the sites that we have on the map, verify that what we think is there is actually still there, and document and let us know about things that probably should be on the map that we don't have yet. As comprehensive as it is at this point, I suspect there's probably hundreds of things that belong on the map and we just don't have them yet. And what we're trying to do too is, like today, foster collaborative relationships with the local chapters. You are the boots on the ground in your area. You know what's pretty cool in your area. If somebody was coming to you and saying, I'm a baseball fan, I'm coming into town for a ball game, I'm coming into town to visit family, I'm coming into town for a business trip, and I've got an hour to kill. What should I go do? Basically, we're just trying to get all of this information onto the map so that people can use it. And also, from the historical perspective, record, document murals, especially that over time disintegrate, markers that sometimes go missing, statues that get stolen and destroyed. So we're trying to document this stuff too, so that future generations will know what was there. For the map itself, it's going to be as comprehensive as we can make it. Active ballparks from Major League all the way down to college wood bat leagues. We're trying hard to make sure that even the smallest college wood bat league is on the map. Historic ballparks that are still standing, but there's really no active ball team using it at this point. Markers, statues, murals, public art, museums and exhibits. Museums sometimes being a full-blown, of course, in Cooperstown, we've got the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. In Van Meter, Iowa, there's a tiny Bob Feller Museum that's part of like a municipal building. Sometimes you'll find at a library, there's a public display of a specific ball player that maybe was famous in that town. And for instance, the Byron, Illinois Historical Society, there is a display of baseball in Byron, and that's where Al Spalding was born. So there's some Al Spalding memorabilia and things there too. The grave sites for the main map, that's going to be Hall of Famers and also any other people that may have been significant enough to be on the map. You'll see when we get to the graves map that nearly 10,000 that we have on there already and are adding more. It gets pretty overwhelming, so we didn't want to have all of them on there. You also find some historic homes, baseball, movie filming locations, and then kind of other miscellaneous attractions, photo opportunities. For instance, the wiffle ball factory on the outside, I don't think they do tours or anything. I don't know that they even have a company store, but there is a pretty cool big wiffle ball sign on the outside that if I was ever in the area, I'd like to go see. So that's what we're kind of trying to do for the map itself. If you haven't already joined the Landmarks Committee, you can do so here at the landing page through the SABR website. At the end of the presentation, I'll have my email address up there too. You could find me in the SABR directory. If you don't know how to do it, or you just need some help, please let me know. I'm happy to add you. I can do that. This way too, you can contact us with any questions. Their map will be accessible here, both this one and the Graves map. And I've also done, with the help of Bill Perch here in Chicago, some videos demonstrating how the map works. And we went on a little bit of a road trip here in Chicago using the phone feature, and we'll kind of go through how cool it is to use it on your phone. But if you need some help with that, you could find that there. And there's also on that page information on how to add things to the map and actually like make suggestions. Hey, here's something that we think is pretty cool. It's not on the map yet, and I'd like to have it added. So just the map itself, it's going to be accessible. You can use it on your laptop, desktop. It's also going to be accessible and usable on your phone or a tablet. You can do all kinds of customization with it. There's a feature where if you type in the area code, I'm sorry, the zip code where you are, or even your address, it's going to list the 9 closest sites to you by address and allows you to click on them and give you turn-by-turn directions. And using it on your phone is unbelievable. If you are driving somewhere and you're in the middle of nowhere and you're like, you know, I think something is close to here. I want to see if it is. Look on the map. You have the pop-up box, and right within the pop-up box is going to be a little thing that is going to clue you or take you to Google Maps. It's going to give you turn-by-turn directions from wherever you are to that next site. And looking at the way that it looks on the phone, I'm going to apologize in advance. Some of these I'm hoping I'm pronouncing correctly. I know from watching The Office that Holly was once transferred to Nashua, so I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, I hope. But if you're using it on your phone, and these are just screenshots from my phone that I took earlier today, say for instance, you're near Nashua and you're like, I think that there's a mural of Don Newcomb and Roy Campanella somewhere there. You go to the map, you find it, and when you click on that screen or the little pin here, it's going to bring up the pop-up box. And you're going to have these options. When it says open in Google Navigate, that is going to open it up in Google Maps. So if you look at the one on the right-hand side, this morning when I did this, it would have taken me 15 hours and 17 minutes to get to that specific spot from where I am. It was going to be about $41 in tolls, so that's pretty expensive. And there was a potential winter storm warning, so it's going to keep you safe on your way there. But it's pretty cool. Like I said, it's going to do it from wherever you are. It's going to take you directly there. It's not putting you right in the middle of the city or anything. It's taking you right to that spot. And when you hit Street View, that's what the middle one is. It's going to open up Google Street View, and sometimes it's pretty good. If you open Street View for this one, for instance, the one that comes up originally, it has the mural blocked by a city bus. So if you just go with those arrows one way or the other, I'm sure everybody's used Google Street. It'll give you a better shot at it. And this is helpful a lot of times for a couple of reasons. One, it helps, especially when the maps are updated, to make sure that it looks like it's still there. Sometimes, like I said, these things go missing or they're damaged or moved or whatever. And two, if you're going there and you're not necessarily familiar with the area, I like to kind of look at it first to see, hey, is this somewhere where there's parking right by? Normally, I'm not spending more than, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes there. I kind of want to see it, take some pictures of it, and kind of move on with my day. But sometimes it may involve a walk. Maybe it's right on a city street where there is no parking, but it's pretty helpful in that way too. So you could kind of see what you're looking at. And probably the other thing too is you could kind of figure out if the area you're going to looks like it may not be the best area. So I don't know how much time you want to spend there. Another cool thing about using it on your phone, and these are all things you could do on the desktop format as well. But if you hit the menu button at the top, you're going to see the 3 icons pop up. The one on the right, the magnifying glass, is a search feature. So say, for instance, you wanted to find all of the Larry Gardner markers and sites or whatever across the United States. You hit the search, you put in Gardner, hit enter, and it's going to show all of those on the screen. The one in the middle, though, is pretty cool. That's the location finder. So if you hit location finder, you put in the area code. I keep saying that, the zip code. So for this one, I used the one for, what was this, Burlington, Vermont. I don't know the name, what the number was off the top of my head at this point, 05 something. But when you put that in and you hit enter, it gives you the 9 closest locations to whatever zip code you put in. If you actually put in a specific address, It'll give you the 9 closest locations, that specific address. If you look at the one in the middle, you see that green pointer with the hole in the middle and kind of the halo circle around it. That's, I'm assuming, the geographic center of Burlington or geographic center of that zip code. And as you go up, you see there's a box up here. That's athletic park. And we'll see that when we get to the desktop functioning. And then these other ones here too, as you look on the right-hand side, these are closest things to where you're at. And again, these are giving you turn-by-turn directions if you want to. So if you kind of scroll down the list and you're like, oh yeah, I want to see Ralph Lapointe, you get turn-by-turn directions to 287 Colchester Avenue in Burlington. So it's pretty cool that way. And the last one that you saw is a box that allows you to do a route. And by doing this route, I did, just for purposes of demonstration, 60525, the area code where I'm at in the Chicago suburbs. Oh, and here it is. This is the zip code for Burlington is 05402. And when you do this, it's going to pop up, you know, the 1 and the 2 on the middle here. You see one to the other. And for each of these blue bubbles with the numbers in it, you can kind of click along that. You could zoom in. You could see if there's places along your route that are close enough that maybe warrant a detour. And if you do that, you see here where it says add additional location, you can add that to this, and then you hit optimize route, and it's going to put it all in order for you. It's pretty slick. So I'll be honest with you, this feature works better on a laptop. It's easier to use, and it's probably something that you would want to maybe before you do your trip and you're deciding whether to plan it out and figure out things you may want to see along the way. If you do this on a laptop, it'll give you a little better feel. But say, for instance, you're driving through New York, you see that near Oneida, there's this purple marker. That's for Noyes Park in Sherrill. It's, as you can look down here, a college summer league. So say, for instance, you're looking to stay maybe halfway or something. You're like, well, why don't we look in Sherrill? We'll find a room for the night. There's a ball team. If the calendar obviously is showing them at home, you're like, well, we could see a ball game here tonight. It's all pretty cool. And so those are kind of the way that the phone features work. I mentioned earlier the baseball graves map. And again, I can't ever mention this without talking about Dr. Fred Worth. He has provided 99% of the data that we have on here right now. And as you can see, these bubbles where it's, you know, this one that's right above Ohio, 3,200, it's just insane, right? Kentucky, Tennessee areas, over 1,100 graves. And like I said, most of these he's looked at it himself personally. For this map, you're able to select whether the person is a Hall of Famer or a non-Hall of Famer. It's going to do the same thing with the 9 closest sites. So if you're at a cemetery in Kansas and you want to find out where the next closest grave is of a former ball player, you could find it pretty simply. And the really cool thing with the turn-by-turn directions in the graves map is that very often, you know, you're going through the pathways or the roads or whatever in a cemetery, it's going to give you turn-by-turn directions in the cemetery. And the way that this is done and the accuracy that Fred has given us usually is going to take you within 5 to 10 feet of the grave itself. This isn't just showing you, here's the place where the person's buried. Have fun looking around. It's going to take you right to the area where the gravestone is. You may need to look around. If you've ever done any grave hunting, sometimes you may need to sweep some leaves away from one that's placed on the ground. Maybe there's a family name on one side, but you're not finding the particular person. But it does give you some pretty cool access to that. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of, if you've never used the maps, I just kind of wanted to go through this. And I'm hoping that this works here. Are you able to see baseball map? Okay, so when you open up the map on your computer, this is how it's going to look on a laptop. It's different than the formatting, obviously, on the phone. But one of the cool things is that you see on the left hand here, left hand side is type. So each of the different types of places that are marked on the map are going to be color coded. And you may not necessarily know what the color codes are. Honestly, I don't even at this point. But say, for instance, you're traveling, like I said, you want to go from Chicago to Vermont, and you decide, I don't want to look at graves, or I want to look at everything except for NCAA and restaurants or something. You could just click all of these. The default is it's going to show you everything. But say, for instance, all you want to see is the red, that's Major League Ballparks. Um, affiliated, I'm sorry, ballparks is not, that's Major League here. So say you just want affiliated minor leagues and Major League Ballparks. This is what you're going to get. Or you're like, you know what, all I want to do is see where the museums are across the country. You click museums and you go to each of these and you're going to find, here's the League Park Baseball Heritage Museum in Cleveland, which if you ever get to Cleveland, I cannot recommend it enough. I've been there, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 times. My son goes to school there and I visit every time I have time to be there. So, but if you unclick these, then it opens up back everything and just kind of getting to the area where the East Coast Collective is probably most interested. We can look at this area here. So each one of these blue circles, as you click it, it's going to bring you in closer. You can also use your mouse to zoom in, zoom out if you want to. But each of these ones, if you hover over it, it's going to tell you what it is. If you click on it, it'll open up the box. And this is a marker for the Keene White Sox. I spent some time in Keene when I was working for Liberty Mutual, and it's a beautiful town. I had no idea there was a marker there at the time. I wish the map existed. You go up to Charlestown or Charleston and Carlton Fisk. Everybody knows Carlton Fisk as a White Sox legend. I don't know if anybody even remembers where he might have played before that. But if you are looking at the street view here, it pops up and there it is. So home of Carlton E. Pudge Fisk. You kind of zoom around, you're like, well, it looks like there's a lot of parking there. This one should be pretty easy to get in and out of. And you could keep going up here, and Rutland is St. Peter's Field, Middlebury, Ray Fisher, same kind of thing. You're gonna see when you get to this one originally, it looks like it's hidden behind that tree, so you just click over, and there you go, birthplace of Ray Fisher. Again, another place where it looks like it's gonna be pretty easy access. You could probably park right there, hop out, look at the sign, take a couple pictures, be on your way. And one thing I do want to indicate though is if you're ever looking at a historical marker like that, or if you're at a gravesite, make sure you go around the back too. Sometimes there's more information on the back. Sometimes on a gravestone, you go around the back and there's a metal plaque with more information maybe about the baseball career of that person. So just kind of a general tip. And so if we get up here to Burlington, you click on the 8 there. This was the one that I had up earlier for the phone. But as you zoom in here, same kind of thing happens. This is the marker for Athletic Park. As we go on the street view here, excuse me. You see this one here, it's on the corner. But maybe as I'm looking at this one, I'm kind of trying to think, maybe parking here is a little bit weird. Maybe I could park real quick over here and run up there. But just one of the good reasons to look at it in advance. But one of the things that we're trying to do here too is make sure that we have photographs that go into the pop-up boxes and have people verify specifically where things are. So if any of you have been to Centennial Field, I don't know if things have changed, but at least when this was taken, it was the single A affiliate of the A's. I don't know if that still is the case or not. But not only do we have the ballpark on here as a marker, we have the historical marker on here as a marker. And there's also here, somebody else has done this because I've never been to this, 4 markers, I guess, that are within the ballpark. Clyde Angle, Larry Gardner, Ray Collins, and Ralph LaPointe. But unfortunately, all of them show as being kind of right in the middle of the infield. So I don't know where they are, what they are. And part of what we're asking the people to do in each of the chapters is help us out. If you can get pictures, if this is a ballpark that's near you and you can send us photos, that'd be fantastic. I don't know exactly what these markers are. And kind of looking around on Google, you're able to kind of get in as close as here, and you really can't see. I'm not sure whether they are plaques or something else. But what we'd like to do eventually is have each of them listed specifically, excuse me again, so that when you're at the ballpark, especially one you've never been to before, you're thinking, oh, there's statues here, there's markers here, there's things that I want to see maybe before the game gets going, or if you're trying to take a couple minutes to walk away from the game. A lot of places have all kinds of stuff to see. And that's what we're trying to do is make sure that we've got all of this on here so that someone, especially visiting from out of town that doesn't know what's there, is going to be able to find exactly what they need. So I'll kind of zoom out here. I know mostly the ones in Chicago, because this is where we are, and we've tried to do as best we can to get the photos on here. But I'll just show you where the White Sox played. There's 23 points of interest here. And for the White Sox, you're going to go down to each of these statues, Harold Baines, Charles Comiskey. And as you zoom in closer, it's going to be the precise locations where each of them are. This one here, Billy Pierce statue. Right here, there's a Jim Thome plaque on the wall. But it would be really nice to eventually have each of the major league ballparks, minor league ballparks, any ballpark anywhere that has all of this information ready to go. Here's the home plate marker where old Comiskey used to be. Under the train tracks here, there's a Carlton Fisk mural. And as you click on it, you could kind of see it's pretty cool. But it's kind of one of those things where, say, for instance, you go to a White Sox game, you're not necessarily from the area, you park in the lot over here, you're going to walk under here, and you might miss all of the cool stuff that's under there. So just something to think about. If you take the CTA from Chicago down, in the CTA station, there is this amazing stained glass art. So it's one of those things where we don't want anybody at any point to miss out on something because they didn't know it was there. And that's really kind of coming back to me being in Birmingham going, I missed a museum and a Willie Mays statue because I had no idea they were there. And so kind of in the same vein, the SABR Baseball Graves map is, like I said, mind-boggling in its breadth. But what you'll see here is, and it's probably of a lot of interest to the East Coast Collective, is Dr. Worth hasn't really visited New York so much. There's not much in this area geographically. He obviously wants to do that. I have been with some folks that I visited Cooperstown with, a couple years ago. We visited Johnny Evers in Troy, and I think George Gore is buried somewhere near Utica. So I know that there's a lot of graves here, but they're just unfortunately not on the map yet. So this is another place where we could really use some help from everybody in the area to get these ones on the map, because I'm sure there's probably hundreds that are missing at this point. But if we go to, for instance, out near the Buffalo area, and we'll pick here because my wife is born in Tonawanda. You'll see, for instance, at the cemetery, and this is Mount Olivet Cemetery in Kenmore, that there are several markers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 markers. The orange one is Joe McCarthy, who is a Hall of Famer as a manager. The rest of the markers here are Scrappy Carroll, someone I never heard of, Jocko Halligan, someone I never heard of, Ty Tyson. But what's really cool, like I said, is each one of them is going to be, as you zoom in, right down to the grave site, pretty close. Some of them will be off a little bit, like I said, maybe 5, 10 feet, but it's going to bring you right there. Sometimes these cemeteries have street view available. This one doesn't. This one just has you on the access road that's on the outside of the cemetery. But sometimes when you click on it, it'll actually show you the gravestone. And it's pretty cool to be able to do that. But just wanted to show you the amazing detail. And you can see this is one cemetery. Across the street is another cemetery. This is actually in Tonawanda. And this is Elmer Zacher. Again, I don't know who that is. Or Herm Doscher. Hopefully I'm not offending anybody that I don't know these people, but this is just one of the things that if you are interested in looking for graves, you're going to be able to find them within the cemetery right down to the 5 or 10 feet around where the gravestone is. So pretty cool stuff. Now I just want to get back to and I guess while we're kind of looking at this stuff, does anybody have any questions? I actually see there's stuff in the chat. I don't know if there's questions in here.
We've been having a little bit of a discussion in the chat, but if you have a question for our presenter, John Racanelli, tonight, please go down to the bottom of the screen and hit the react button, then hit the button marked raise hand, and we will get you in to ask questions of our presenter, John Racanelli, tonight. And first one up is Molly. Molly, unmute and go get him.
Yeah.
I think I just muted you, Molly. Go ahead and unmute. Nice guy I am. That's my wife.
Thanks, honey. I'm
Hey,
feeling the love. Feeling
Good
that
thing
love.
good thing you're in separate rooms.
Right?
John, first of all, thank you for doing this lovely presentation. I was interested in, if you don't mind, panning over to Maine, Washington, Maine. The name of our chapter is Clyde Sukeforth, and he was born in Washington, and I was wondering if you guys had any markers there.
Okay, so at least do you know if he's where he's buried?
I just started doing research.
I think he's buried in Wolfbrook, Maine.
Okay, do you know how to spell it?
Sukeforth.
So if you go up to the top here, the search,
Yeah,
it says Clyde Leroy Sukeforth.
yeah, that's him.
And
Waldoboro, I mispronounced it. That's where he's buried.
So do you see this one where it's got the extra ring around it?
Yep.
Basically, you just have to keep looking for it. You'll zoom in on it.
Okay.
And it looks like he's buried in Waldoboro in Brooklyn Cemetery. And so if you want to look then on the regular map, nothing comes up here. So it looks like his grave marker is probably the only thing. If there is something out there that Clyde Sukeforth is on a historical marker somewhere, we'd love to have it on here. So if there is something else out there, we'd love to know about it.
Tony Melito makes a good point in the chat. Sukeforth has a marker that is almost unreadable. I've been told that. I haven't had a chance to go up there to see if I can find that grave, but that's a very good point. Let's go to Ben Abel, who is next up. Ben, you can unmute and ask your question. Go get him.
Thanks, guys. Hi, John. Just left a thing for you in the chat. One comment. Podcast that I run started by myself a few years ago during the pandemic. A little bit of a shameless self-promotion here. Bill Perch was on my podcast in April. I guess April. I released it in May about the SABR Landmarks Committee, SABR Landmarks, and I shared a copy of the map in the Pacific Northwest. And so that was a really cool thing to have Bill on and talk about that. Actually netted me quite a few downloads on my podcast because I shared it with a lot of SABR members. So it was more just sharing that and then sharing a comment how much research I still have to do, looking at all the landmarks and the fact that I live in Vancouver, where to locals and maybe in the Pacific Northwest, we have a pretty iconic little stadium in Nat Bailey Stadium.
Where
I've
is
seen
it?
that Bailey Stadium on the minor league baseball TV. It's really something to see.
You should see it in person.
Yeah, I'll bet.
You'd love it.
This one here, Nat Bailey. Yeah, and this is pretty cool too. Sometimes when you get the
Nice.
street view, it's going to actually show you inside the ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
so-
doesn't look like particularly nice weather. It's probably early in the season. In April or probably, yeah, or probably April, maybe after the pandemic. So 2022 forward, probably early in the season, not many people there. Probably a night game. Starts at 7:00 Vancouver time, PST or PDT, because it was daylight savings, and probably raining. Or if it was this year, probably a Canucks game was on, and they were in the playoffs, and they're in the playoffs, so there's probably not many people there. But yeah, no, it's a cool spot.
Yeah, very cool.
Thank you.
I'm gonna, before I go to John, I'm gonna share my screen for a minute because Dan Chichalski sent me something. And there is Sukeforth's grave marker.
Oh yeah, you're not kidding it. It really is.
Yeah. So I think we should probably get that picture over to you folks so you can include it in the map.
Yes. And if you send a photo, your photo will be credited to you within that box too. So it's pretty cool.
So Dan, is that okay if we hook you guys up and you
Oh, yeah, I
send
got
that
John's.
over to him?
Yeah, I got his info.
Good.
I've
Terrific. Let's
done
get
work.
that in there. Terrific. That's great. Thanks, Dan.
One
Let's go to Tom
sorry.
Emerson. Tom, you're up, man. How you doing?
Hey, Bruce. Good. Doing well. Thanks.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. John, it's fantastic. I can't wait to get started with looking at all this stuff. Two questions, and I apologize if you had gone over this, but one, and I kind of what Bruce just covered, maybe if you do have some monument or anything to share, can you update that in the application, or do we send something to you and give you the location and what it is with a photo? And the second question was, who entered all this data? You may have covered that again, sorry, but it's just staggering the amount of information. Thanks.
Yeah, as far as adding to the website, if you go to the landing page within the SABR system, you might have to scroll down, but when you scroll down, there should be a link to a Google Sheet where you could put in the information. Initially, the way that this worked was I came up with a spreadsheet that I think had maybe about, I don't know, 1,600 items on it. And like I said, it's split between not only, where the White Sox play, but each of those individual statues. So once we finally got this approved and it went through SABR, like I said, I want to say we had like 60 volunteers that went through geographically a bunch of the areas, then put in more information, verified what we had. Some of the things that I had come up with were no longer there, or a ballpark that had been torn down or whatever. And so it's basically just been a crowdsourcing thing at this point. We get a handful, maybe every month or so of people that'll put stuff in. But it's not like a direct thing. There is a little bit of a vetting process. We just want to make sure that everything that goes onto the map is up to certain standards. For instance, there is a ballpark down the street from me that's just called Babe Ruth Park. It's nothing more than a backstop. And some people might think, well, it's named after Babe Ruth. That's fine, but he never played there. It's not like there's a marker there or anything. So we just want to make sure that these are things that people would actually want to see that might have some historic value in terms of a ball player playing there when they were a kid, or if there's a monument there, obviously. But that's kind of basically the way that this is all gone. But just go to the landing page and you'll find a link for the Google Sheet. The thing that helps the most, honestly, though, is giving us the coordinates of where it's at, the GPS coordinates. And there's a video and links on how to find those in Google. But all along, if you're not able to do it, and this is for anybody, I'm not pointing to you personally, but if you're not able to figure it out, or you just need some help with that, we can help you. So we're
Okay.
looking to make the map as complete as possible.
And if you took a picture of a monument or a statue, can you upload that, or that would be done? Yeah, you would do that.
Yeah, that's a little complicated too. The way that the map works is we have a spreadsheet with all the information that populates all of those markers on the map. The way that the company that we use that runs the map works it, we have to have a photo hosted by an outside company, then it has to be formatted in a specific link. It's
Oh,
really a
okay.
pain in the butt. But if
Mhm.
you send us the photos, we can take care of it, unless you're familiar with Imgur and you can get
Yeah.
that stuff. But yeah, just one photo. And the key is it has to be a photo that you took. It can't be one that's you grab off the internet. You
Right.
have to have the rights to it. So that's just
Sure.
for anybody
Great.
taking pictures.
Good.
Tony Melito had a question in the chat. His question was, are there instructions on how to pin a location?
Yeah, basically pinning the locations like what we just talked about with Tom.
I
What
figured.
you're going to do is go to the Google spreadsheet, put the information in, and then we will do what we need to do on the back end to make sure that it qualifies for the map and then get it up on the map. It's also helpful to send an email if you want to me. And sometimes I'm able to get them on the map same day if I got nothing going on. So
Ben Abel, he has another comment. Unmute, you're up, man.
Here, hold on.
There you go.
Oh, being funky. Do you want a picture of the 3-foot hot dog from Nat Bailey Stadium to pin on the map?
is it a landmark? A 3-foot
It
Well, it
sounds
could be.
delicious.
I know people probably don't get the humor, and I shouldn't do this when there's all these people asking questions, and I've already made a comment. But if you've seen that thing at the ballpark and how many people I worked at the ballpark last year were buying that hot dog, and it's $36.
Wow.
Oh, sorry, $30. Then it was 36 for a 3-foot hot dog plus a can of beer that was regularly $12 discounted to $6.
Goodness.
Okay, so you're talking about an actual hot dog, not a statue of a hot dog.
No, sorry, I'm just being kooky. I'm just being kooky because people who live here know what I'm talking about would laugh, right? And the thing is massive. And I bought the 3-foot hot dog as a staff member. I got 50% off. I actually transported it I bought the 3-foot hot dog, got half off, cut it into thirds, and transported it home with me from work and stuck it in the freezer. Anyway, that's a.
I don't even know how to react to that. I'm wondering as if there is a probationary period now for your SABR membership.
Okay. Oh, that's not good.
Ben, we kid because we love Gary Mintz.
Yes, I know.
Save me, Gary. Help me. You're up.
John, just your work is just unreal, the information. I noticed you had graves and statues and monuments. Does the committee also list street names?
At this point, no. It's kind of one of those things where an honorary name, it's maybe interesting to know that it's there, but again, unless there's something tying that person to that street, it really doesn't necessarily make sense to do that. So,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Thank you.
you bet.
Next one up is my friend Tara Krieger. Tara, you can unmute. How are you? You're muted, my friend. We've got to get her to press that unmute button. You're still unmuted. You're still muted, Tara.
Mute.
Oh dear. There it
we go.
is.
Okay.
How you doing?
Good. Hey. Okay. So sorry about that. I'm on my phone. But my question, I'm sorry I came in a little late, but is there like a short URL or something for this website, or like where we find it? I'm sorry. I came in late, so I didn't catch the most important part.
Yeah, the system that we use, unfortunately, gave us this really long, nonsensical address.
Mhm.
And I found out after the fact, and you can see it with the Graves map, that it's a nice Graves map address. When I tried to change it, it broke all of the links that we had. So I changed it back. I think honestly, the easiest way to find it is probably just Google SABR Baseball Map and you'll find it, or go to the landing page on the SABR website and it'll be a link there.
Okay.
And plus, what I've done too is I just put it onto my phone. I have SABR Baseball Map. I don't know if you could see it in the Graves map just as icons on my phone too. So that
Tiny,
way,
but
whenever
yeah.
I'm there, I pop it open and I'm ready to go.
Okay, so it's an app. Cool. And do you update the photos? Because I know like you're like, oh, parking here, but I don't know, maybe someone builds a building there or something, and it's like a year or two later. Do
Yeah.
do people update them or?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the ones that you're looking at from the pop-up box, the link there, that's going to be Google Maps. So whatever Google
Oh,
has is the most recent one. That's what
okay.
we, so.
Gotcha. So it'll auto update. Got
Yep.
it. Cool. Thanks.
Terrific. Next up, Donna Muscarella. Donna, how you
Hello.
doing?
I'm
Hello.
good. I'm good.
Hello.
Hey, John.
Hey, Donna.
So back to the street names for a second. Let's say we'll use Hinchliffe Stadium as an example. Larry Doby Lane is smack next to Hinchliffe. In that case, I suspect it would make sense to add it because it's within the confines of where you'd be visiting, or not really.
That's a good question. Um, we had talked about it originally. For instance, in Nashville, I think right outside of where the Sounds play is Junior Gilliam Way. In Chicago, there's a Javi Baez Street. He's literally the only ball player with a honorary street of all of the ball players in Chicago history. Javi Baez is the only one. But as far as adding those, I think it's something we could think about. You know, I don't want to be too close-minded about it, but if it's right next to the ballpark, maybe it makes sense. But I don't know that I necessarily think it makes sense to put a honorary street somewhere in the middle of nowhere. If there's not
Right. No,
a
I
company,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
a
smack in the
company,
middle of nowhere. But
yeah,
like, I mean, I'm just thinking in the context of that one, it actually makes a really nice photo because you can get the street name with the stadium right behind it. And like you were saying about, oh, I saw this Willie Mays thing off in the distance. I just think for those of us who like to do the photography aspect of the ballparks, it could make for a cool feature to have that on there.
yeah,
Just
makes
something
sense.
to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Like it.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Next up is Matthew Glidden. Matthew, how you doing?
Good, thanks. And there was just an allusion to my question. Did you get to go back and fill in all those things you missed, John? If so, if not everything, what's still on your list to go back to?
In Birmingham, I have not been back to Birmingham to see what I missed, but I I don't know. I'm just a junkie, so I mean, regardless of where I'm going, if I've been somewhere, I'll probably go back if it's worth going back to. And I'm kind of, Bruce alluded to the triple peanuts. I'm a little bit obsessed with eating peanuts at ball games, and when I get a triple, I like to take a picture of it. And there's a lot of ball parks that I've been to that unfortunately I visited before I was into triple peanuts, so I need to get back to those two.
Can't wait for that monument somewhere.
Right, I hope so.
And they need to make sure they've got the triple peanuts for you when you show up. Dixie Tarango, how you doing, Dix?
I'm doing fine.
You are up.
For the last 10 minutes, I've been thinking about that 3-foot hot dog.
Right?
And I think that if you could get a photograph of the concession where it was, and a picture. They must have some kind of promo there for a 3-foot hot dog for $36.
I do. I took the picture. Do you want to see it?
Something.
I have the
and a
pictures.
picture of the stadium where they were selling this stuff.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay,
Okay.
that sounds good to me.
Okay, I'll put it on there, or I'll send it to John, or I'll send it to Bill.
Yeah, Ben, if that's the only photo you have of Nat Bailey Stadium, we'll use it until a better one comes along. So you at least got that going for you.
I have a season's worth of working at the ballpark photos that I shot with my iPhone, so I could use for my own interest, John, and for my podcast where I talk Canadians baseball. And so I always shoot images there at the ballpark to use for when I share episodes of my own podcast. So I don't have to worry about rights or copyright or anything. So I'm happy to, why don't I connect with you outside of this and you could come on my podcast and we'll talk, because I don't want to keep dominating the conversation because I know other people want to speak.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks.
Kirk Weber is up. Kirk, can you turn on your camera or no?
For some reason, I'm not able to turn on my camera. I'm not sure why.
That's okay. We can hear you just fine. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Quick question. I live in Spokane, and that's where Ryan Sandberg is from. Would something like the high school where he played high school baseball be something that the landmarks map would want? Or, I mean, normally you would look at a high school field, you wouldn't really care, but since someone like him played there.
Let me ask you this, as a huge Ryan Sandberg fan, it's something that I would probably want to visit. Is there any kind of tribute to him there? Is it named Ryan Sandberg Field, anything like that?
I think recently they have named it after him. Yes, it's been a while since North Central High School in Spokane is where he played. I think within the last 5 or 10 years, they named it after him. Before that, it was just a field.
Yeah, I would think if it's somewhere where he actually played and they've named it after him, I absolutely think it belongs on the map.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Next up, Dan Chachowski. Dan, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. John, this is just from what I'm getting from this is there seems to be some interest in a potential SABR baseball foods map.
Baseball foods map. Interesting.
Put the restaurants there. We can put all the 3-foot hot dogs there.
That is exactly what I was just going to chime in about. And if it's not something that SABR Baseball Foods, maybe at least there's tons of blogs out there that talk about this. Maybe some way to get them to advertise the map and kind of collaborate with them. But yeah.
Yeah, here's one thing that we could do. Each of the pop-up boxes has a notes section that sometimes is used, sometimes isn't. So if there is a ballpark that you're passionate about and you know really cool stuff about, whether it's things to see there, places to sit, foods, it can all be put into the notes section. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. What we're trying to do is give people that are touring the country an idea of where to stop. And I don't want to discount that it's both the US and Canada. There's all kinds of spots in Canada too. So if there is something cool to get at a ballpark, yeah, I think we should definitely put it in the notes.
We might be starting a turf war with the concessions committee. Who knows? I'm not sure I want to get in the middle of that, but hey, Molly has a good point in the chat. She was talking about adding gluten-free food choices. There's an awful lot of people out there who do have food allergies who don't go to a ballpark because of that. And that's a very good point that she makes. Ben says, agreed, Molly. I rarely eat hot dogs, especially 3-foot ones. I think Ben is lying through his teeth on that, but I'm just going to let that out there because he was the one who brought up the 3-foot hot dog. So, you know.
Yeah. And
Tara makes a great point. Kosher halal foods. That's a great point right there.
Yeah, I want to say that most of the pop-up boxes, for at least for the major league ballparks, will have a link to the website for the team. So hopefully if there are people with dietary restrictions, they can find that information pretty easily through the pop-up box too.
Let's go to Greg Fagley. Greg, unmute. You're up. How you doing tonight, Greg?
I'm doing great, John. Hey, I really like the program. The Landmarks Committee does a lot of really neat things, and the map is awesome. Isn't there a Landmarks grant that's available?
There
through
is,
SABR?
and
And
yeah,
can you tell me a little bit about that and like how you go about what the selection criteria is and how much money is available for different
yeah,
projects that people apply for?
it's an outside committee that does the SABR grants. And the grant is not only necessarily for just markers or whatever, but it's also for research and other kinds of things. And I'm not involved in the selection process whatsoever. We in the Chicago chapter have applied a couple of times and our request was denied. So I know it's not like you just ask for them, they give you money. But essentially, my understanding is, and someone, if they have more information that's on the call, correct me if I'm wrong. But what they're doing is they're going to try and, if you've got a marker and you've got permission from the landowner or the municipality to have that marker installed, you've worked on the wording of that marker, you have some idea of what the cost of the marker is. Maybe you've actually done some fundraising and you're just needing so much money, $1,500 or something to kind of fill in the gap and get you to your goal. That I think that that's what the landmarks committee, or I'm sorry, that's what the grants committee will do. Trust me, I have not gone through the process myself, so I'm not exactly sure, but I've had contact from some people about, hey, it would make sense to put a marker here. Okay, well, do you have any permission yet? I don't. Have you spoken to any celebrities that may have some pull, right, Gary Mintz, right? So it's one of those things where you just, as long as you've got your ducks in a row and you feel like you're at a point where really all you're looking for is maybe a little more money or the money to get you started, I think that's where you want to be with it. But the grants program, I know each of the years that it's been in business, I think has helped put at least 5 or 6 markers in, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a pretty cool process.
Well, one of the reasons I ask is Art Neff, and I don't know whether that name means anything to you, but he was a pitch. I'm from Terre Haute, Indiana, so I'm about 3.5 hours south of you. Art Neff is from Terre Haute, and he played baseball at a college in Terre Haute at Rose-Hulman, and they actually renamed or have named their baseball field Art Neff Field. But it would be nice, and they have a banner that they have attached to the side of the seating where people sit. But it would be nice if they had something more permanent, like the historical markers that you see in a lot of places. And I've reached out to Rose, and they have plenty of money, and they do a great job with their athletic facilities. So they could do it if they wanted to do it. But I just thought, and really, I'm not thinking about applying for a grant, but I just wondered what the process was, how many, just how many people generally apply for things through the historical grants. And just to get a feel for if it's even something worthwhile to pursue.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of this is do it yourself. So if you're passionate about a player or executive or somebody that's from your hometown, and you feel like you've got the means to convince the people with the say so as to where it goes and getting it done, I think that's a lot of it is making sure that if you feel there's someone that needs to be remembered, that they're remembered properly. So definitely pretty cool. And I've been to Terre Haute. I've seen the Larry Bird statue. I know it's not baseball related, but we did visit the Three Finger Brown stuff there and pretty cool. So, yep.
Yeah, and Max Carey has a nice marker too. Have you seen the Max Carey marker?
I haven't.
Max Carey has a great marker. I'll send you a picture. I think that would really be a nice addition to the map if it's not already on there.
Okay, very cool.
Let's go back to Dixie.
A 30-second story again on hot dogs. The greatest name for a concession selling hot dogs in the history of baseball used to be at the former Atlanta Braves Stadium. Not this one, the one before it. They would serve you hot dogs as they were made in various parts of the country. The name of it was Frankly, My Dear.
Yes.
It's perfect.
Love it. That's fantastic. Stu Thornley, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. That's me in the picture. You want to see what a young man looks like when I was once a young man. Some of the stuff I was going to bring up got covered by Greg. And then in the discussion that afterwards, and Greg, I'd say you go for the grant. Even if some have been turned down, I know there's been some good stuff. John, we had the meeting recently with the fellow Ben Ernst from Aberdeen and the great job he did out there with the Aberdeen Pheasants.
Right.
And I applied for a grant, but not knowing the first thing you got to get permission. And I think John knows a little bit about this, but for the Pillbox Ballpark in St. Paul, it's on state property where I work. So I know what a pain it is to deal with them. My question is the people who are doing this have got to be kind of like a good resource to help others who have been through some of the whatever it is. Somebody who just gets started, like, hey, Art Neff's here. I remember, I know Art Neff's name. Maybe somebody can be a mentor or help somebody with it, or if there's a particular problem. And mine right now is dealing with bureaucracy, but just a way of within the committee, Jeremy Kroc, I think of him with the Negro League Grave Markers Committee and all of a way to just pool resources. Who knows who could help somebody else out somewhere else too. This committee's doing enough, and I'm amazed at all of it to be doing too much hand holding, but there might be experts within it. And it does remind me, John, I've got to get back onto the baseball map and go back into Minnesota. When this first got going, I did a gung-ho tour around a lot of Minnesota and entered stuff and never got to part 2 of photos and stuff like that. I did take photos of a lot of stuff, and I'll be in touch with you if I can't figure out how to get them up there, which I probably won't. Maybe I can arrange to send to you, but this is giving me a little kick in the butt to go back into what I did before and get it to the next steps.
Yeah, and I think after the last meeting we had, and I don't know if anybody was on that, we basically just did a show and tell meeting. And so it was kind of like, what did you do this summer? Did you visit any cool places? Show off some pictures of where you were. As far as the committee, I mean, we're relatively young still. I think we're about 3-4 years since we started. And one of our goals would be at some point to be a repository, like Stu said, for helping people that are looking to place markers with advice how to do it. I would expect that each one is going to be different, but there's people that have done it. I know you've done it, Stu, so you're going to have some information on, at the very least, where to order the sign from, how much it costs for the pole, or to have somebody, lay the concrete to put the pole in. I don't know, all kinds of stuff that I would even have no idea where to start. So I think that's definitely something that we want to put on the calendar for 2025 to try and get people together that have done this, have some expertise in it, and try and maybe put together at least some kind of reference for people that they can look at to figure out where to start. So it's a great idea.
But thanks for considering, and I hate to be one of those people because I've dealt with them where hey, I got an idea for you to do lots of work. But just to kind of throw it out there, and yeah, if I could be a resource on anything, but that's down the road to all of us with expertise at however it is, throw it out there and be a resource for others.
Yeah, for sure.
John, any closing thoughts, or can you give our viewers directions on how to get in touch with the committee and how they can get involved?
Yeah, the one thing that I did want to mention, I don't know if anybody here has read our blog, but committee has the Hardball Voyager blog, and we'd like to invite anybody that maybe you've been in SABR for 100 years or 25 minutes. But one of the things that anybody that has joined SABR and is maybe looking to do some writing, this is a really great way to dip your toe if you've never done it. Some of the things that SABR does with regard to writing is pretty rigorous and it's vetted and it's fact checked, and an editor who may do that for a living actually looks at your stuff, which is always kind of intimidating for an amateur like me. This is really a way where if you visited something cool, say for instance, there is a ballpark in Spokane, Washington, named after Ryan Sandberg that you can visit easily, snap a couple pictures of, and say, look at this. Here's a ballpark in Spokane named after Ryan Sandberg. Send the photos, send 2 or 3 sentences. That's all it really needs to be to us, and we're happy to put it up on the blog. We just want to make sure that we're trying to build a community of people that are interested in traveling, interested in baseball, and wanting to share. And hopefully, if you've never written anything or you've written all kinds of stuff for SABR, we're looking for people to just show us what they have seen, what they're interested in, what they're passionate in. And if at any point anybody in an individual chapter is interested in maybe doing a talk like this with more people in your own chapter, always happy to do that. And finally, the last thing I would say is just get out there and travel. If you're going on a 45-minute hike an hour away from you, or you're driving across country, or whatever it is, as long as whoever you're traveling with, you could convince them to take 20 minutes out of the way to go see something cool, do it. And it's awesome so often that it helps break up trips. A 4-hour stretch from here to there becomes an hour and a half and an hour and a half, and you see 2 cool things along the way. So that's really about it. If anybody needs to get in contact with me, it's real easy. John B. Racanelli, Racanelli @gmail. And if you go again to the SABR landmarks page, my contact information is there too. You could find me in the SABR directory. But always happy. Hopefully, anybody here that has called or emailed or whatever, I hope that I got back to you in a timely fashion. I try and do it, but I'm passionate about it, and I want to make the map as cool as it can be.
This has been a fantastic discussion. It has been comprehensive and very, very informative on a committee that is doing an awful lot of yeoman's work out there. Now, next week, Monday, December 9th at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have author Tim Manners with us to discuss his new book, Schoolboy, The Untold Journey of a Yankees Hero. It's a book that he wrote in conjunction with Waite Hoyt, and I think you're going to be very interested to hear a lot about this. This is one to please the Yankee fans out there. The link is in the sign up page at sabr.org/events, and it is also in the meeting booklet that is sent out with the Monday message. And finally, if you're a baseball fan watching on YouTube and you like what you see, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to be alerted to each of our weekly uploads. And if you're not yet a member, you need to join the Society for American Baseball Research, the premier baseball community. Offering an amazing baseball buffet of options to explore your fandom, SABR boasts more than 35 different research committees, over 80 regional chapters, and innumerable opportunities to connect with baseball minds across the world. For more information, go to sabr.org/join today. John Racanelli, you are fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, Bruce. This was fun.
We appreciate it. Well, let's get everybody out of here. We'll see you Monday night. Have a good night, everybody.